Alrighty, so we're going to be doing this lesson on theme, which is the message or lesson of a text. This is for Miss Oyola's Grade 8 Communication Arts class or anyone else who happens to be watching. Why should you care? Theme is one of the literary elements, the pieces that make up most narratives. Narratives, that's just a fancy English teacher word for saying a story. And we know that narratives are comprised of specific pieces. We call those literary elements. Those are character, plot, setting, point of view, and theme. The theme of a story is the message or lesson of a text. They can be hard to spot. The author rarely just comes out and tells you what the theme is. If you can figure out the theme, though, you're going to enjoy your story on a much deeper level because then you'll understand what the author is trying to say to you. So let's start with a quick review. There are 4 major types of writing: narrative, expository, persuasive, and descriptive. Narrative, as I just said, is a fancy English teacher word for a story, something with a beginning, middle, and end, and characters and plot. And then literary elements are the basic pieces or elements of a narrative. I would say you really can't have a narrative without these parts, and that's character, plot, setting, point of view, and theme. So what is theme? By the way, I'm hoping that if you're watching this, you already learned about character, plot, setting, and point of view. So this theme is definitely going to be the hardest of those. So make sure that you have kind of a basic understanding of what those things are before diving into theme, okay? So theme is the message or lesson of a text. The message or lesson must be disputable, and that just means disputable, right? So able to dispute it. The word dispute is in there. You can agree or disagree with it. That's what disputable means. It means that it's something you can say, yes, I agree with that, or no, I don't. That means it can't just be one word. I've seen this messed up a lot. So people say, oh, the theme in this book is love. Okay, well, what about love? Like that, there's so many things you can say about love. Like you gotta like add more. Make it a complete sentence and make it something I can agree or disagree with. Like true love never dies. That's one possible theme. Or love is fickle, right? Love is dependent upon certain conditions. Like there's all these things you can say about love. You can't just, theme is not one word. Also, it should be universal. It can't be specific to one text. Most cultures around the world should be able to relate to the theme in some way. So these are like the big ideas of things that in some way unite us all as people. Like love is one of those things that most cultures have a concept of it and have opinions about it. Like what is it, and who feels it, and when do you feel it, and why do you feel it? So what I did is I came up with like a bunch of different like theme words, theme topics, right? Like these are just one word that could drive a theme, and then you can take any of those and say a full theme about them by turning it into a full sentence that you can agree or disagree with and is universal. So like friendship, can you say that true friendship is eternal? Can you say that friendships are easily broken? Right? Those are 2 very different statements, and both of those things can be in books. Innocence. Is innocence a strength or is innocence a weakness? Teamwork. Does teamwork make you stronger or are you better on your own? Again, either of those could be themes in a book. Life's meaning. Is every life driven by a purpose? Is every life working towards some end goal, or is life just kind of meaningless and we're all just kind of fuddling around together trying to figure it out? Violence. Is violence never okay, or is violence for the right reasons acceptable? Is violence just? Death. Is death inevitable? Can certain things transcend death? Should everyone be afraid of death, or is death a part of life? Love, we already talked about. And then evil. Is evil something that's inside all of us, or is evil something that is specific to certain people that we have to combat? So again, these are all it's just a start, just a way to kind of get the ball rolling. But you can take any of these and turn them into full themes. So what I did here is I came up with some really common themes in literature. So just because one book has a theme doesn't mean that that's the only book that ever gets to talk about that theme. Like ideas of love lasting forever. I mean, how many cheesy love stories are out there with that theme in it, right? So just because it's been used once doesn't mean you can't use it again. So these are all themes that you've probably seen before in stories or in movies, video games, whatever. Don't cry over spilled milk, which means like don't sweat the small stuff. Excuse me. Don't worry about the little things in life too much. Believe in yourself. Deeds speak louder than words. Honesty is the best policy. Justice for all. Bad things sometimes happen to good people. Don't envy others. Be happy with what you have. Money can't buy happiness. Look before you leap. To have a friend, you have to be a friend. Don't believe everything you hear, and beauty is only skin deep. So again, you might disagree with some of these. It's not about if you agree or disagree with the theme. You might feel the complete opposite. The question is, what is the author trying to say in the text? What is the theme in the narrative that you're reading? So like honesty is the best policy. I think that's one that you might have very strong opinions for or against it. So like, you know, the opposite would be sometimes it's okay to lie if it protects something that's important to you or important to those around you. So, you know, you might read honesty is the best policy and think, well, that's not true. Well, that doesn't mean that isn't the theme that's in the story that you're reading at the time. It's not about your opinion. It's about what is the author trying to say. Once you identify that, then if you want to say why you disagree, that's fine. But just because you disagree with it doesn't mean it's not a theme in the story. A lot of people mess that up. So, speaking of themes in text, how do you identify a theme in a text? Sometimes the author, well, we know that authors usually don't actually speak in the story. They speak through their characters, right? So the characters will come right out and state the theme. Like at the end of the book, they'll say, man, I went through all this stuff, and now I know that you can't always trust people, right? So there you go. They just told you. That's what I learned in the story. That's the theme. But that usually doesn't happen. That's more common in like little kid books. The older you get, the less that's going to happen. Excuse me. So it's usually revealed toward the end of the story. However, authors will leave clues throughout. Sometimes the author never states the theme. You have to make an inference. Watch for patterns, symbols, and other clues. Don't try to guess the theme at the beginning. Characters are going to make mistakes and grow. So you might know, okay, Romeo and Juliet, classic example, right? You read that and you know they're going to be talking about love in this play. This play is trying to tell me something about love. It's not until the end when they both die that you're like, oh, so this isn't like a happy love story. It's actually saying that sometimes love can make you kind of crazy, and love can be dangerous. Love can even be fatal. And that's where you have to look at the clues throughout, because Shakespeare kind of tells you throughout the play that like this actually isn't going to be a happy love story, guys. Pay attention. But you can't really like figure it out all the way until the very end. So don't, if you are like a quarter of the way through the book and you're like, oh, I know exactly what the theme is, just wait until you get to the end, because that's when everything is going to wrap up, and that's usually when the characters will provide those closing thoughts for you, or at least give you a really clear clue about what the theme is. So let's review. Here's what we've learned. Theme is the message or lesson of a text. Themes must be universal and disputable. They cannot just be one word. To find a theme in a text, you should watch out for the characters or narrators who just say the theme, which is lucky and cool, happens sometimes. Or make an inference if necessary. Watch for patterns, symbols, and other clues. Wait for the end of the text to make your final decision. As always, reach out if I can assist, and happy hunting.